Okay, let's restart. So why is it that insight doesn't turn to action again?
Because insight is like a thought bubble. Action is run by those old prediction patterns, where your brain expects something to feel hard or risky. Just knowing better doesn't rewrite that. You've got to update the prediction so your system actually feels ready to act.
So the part of us that isn't taking action isn't the conscious aspect of us? Is that what you're really saying right now?
Exactly. The conscious part knows what you want, but the part actually driving behavior is more automatic. It's running on learned expectations and emotional patterns. If that part thinks something's too costly, it won't move, no matter how logical the insight.
So when we rely on ourselves being really logical and rational, you're really saying that that aspect of ourselves isn't really gonna be driving anything for the most part. Or it might be having some type of influence, but it's not gonna have a heavy influence behind it.
You got it. The logical part might set the direction, but the emotional patterns, the ones predicting effort and reward, are what actually hit the gas or slam the brakes. Logic alone doesn't cut through those predictions, but you can shift them with experience.
So we're really not as rational and logical as we would like to be, which makes sense because that's like the last layer of our brain that was made evolutionarily wise. Because everything else was already been used for so many, like thousands of years already. We've been in that deep. But then there came the logical aspect and rational aspect of our brain, and then here we are thinking that it's driving it because it makes a lot of sense of a lot of things, and it's really prevalent when we think of ourselves and when we try to do all these kinds of stuff. And also, we wouldn't like to think that our brain is not as logical and as rational as it is, because it's like a little ego hit, like, oh, we're kind of stupid, but not really stupid, but kind of stupid.
It's a humbling reality, right? We like to think we're driven by logic, but mostly we're pattern recognition machines. That rational layer is just the narrator. But once you accept that, it's not stupid. It's just knowing how to work with your own brain instead of fighting it.
Okay, so tell me more about why insight doesn't turn into action.
Because knowing is like seeing a map, but action means walking the road. If the road looks rough, like it predicts effort or failure, you hesitate. You don't need more maps. You need to change how that road feels. That's why insight alone won't push you forward. You have to adjust the terrain.
Is there a way to make insight actually turn to action?
Well, you translate insight into action by giving that deeper part of you a new experience. You take a ridiculously small step, one that's so easy it doesn't trigger resistance. Once you feel that little win, the system updates. You do that enough, and suddenly action feels natural. Insight becomes fuel once you start walking, not just thinking about the journey.
So that insight has to be applied. Can you give me an example of what's going on here? Like, what do you mean? Because we already went over that in the first day, and we already talked about how you do have to take the smaller steps, but what else do we need to learn about this aspect that will actually make it clearer? Because it seems that the more clear we have, the more clearer picture we have about how we work, the better we're able to navigate ourselves, and the better we get ourselves to take action instead of fighting against our nature.
It's about spotting where your system hesitates. Let's say you want to reach out to someone. You have the insight, networking is valuable. But if your brain predicts rejection or awkwardness, you freeze. So you don't just tell yourself networking matters. You take a tiny action, maybe a quick message to someone low risk. After you do that, you notice, hey, that wasn't so bad. Each time you do that, you adjust your brain's prediction until the action doesn't feel like a battle. It's not just about steps. It's about updating what your brain expects each time.
So knowing this, what will be like the next layer after this? Like, okay, we know that we have the effort, risk and threat and reward aspects of what we know about ourselves. Knowing this, what will be the next layer of this whole situation so that we could basically paint the clear picture.
After effort, reward, and threat, the next layer is identity and meaning. Once you start acting, your brain asks, is this who I am? Does this matter to me? When actions align with your sense of self or purpose, they become self-sustaining. So once you've chipped away at the immediate predictions, you're building toward action feeling like part of who you are.
And this is where you mean it takes less friction to do the thing, because now your actions are aligning with what you're actually thinking instead of just thinking the thing and not doing it, right?
Exactly. Once your brain sees the action as part of who you are, it's not a fight. It's just what you do. When your identity matches your actions, there's less friction, because the effort-reward equation shifts. You don't need to push yourself as hard when it feels like a natural extension of you.
So to make something actually feel like a natural extension, right? How do we get that in our bodies, in our nervous system, as you said, emotionally? How do we get it so that actually the meaning feels like it's already there, and or maybe you did gather some type of meaning somewhere along the line, and you decided that doing this eventually came with meaning, or meaning came before the thing. It's kind of hard to dictate. Do you give it meaning and then you get yourself to act now because you're like, oh, I know that this is the thing that I'm supposed to do. But then we're talking about how insight doesn't necessarily tend to do that, because you could have the insight that this is meaningful, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you could actually get yourself to do those things just because you realize it was a meaningful thing to you.
You've got it. Meaning isn't just a thought, it's felt through repeated action. You start by acting in small ways even before it feels meaningful, and then you reflect on the experience. When you consistently see that your actions align with something bigger, your nervous system starts to internalize it. Over time, it's no longer just I think this matters, it's I feel this is part of me.
But how does that happen? How does that repeated action eventually become meaningful? How does that work? What is this meaningful aspect that we were talking about here? Or why do we need it to have meaning in the first place?
We need meaning because it's the glue that keeps us going when things get hard. Meaning is just when you connect what you're doing to something bigger, like a value or a goal. The repeated action part, that's how your brain learns it's not just talk. You do something, reflect on why it matters to you, and over time it becomes part of your story. That's when action feels worth it, even when it's tough. Without meaning, you just burn out.
So meaning basically makes it like a growth arc within the story of your life, which that gives that meaning that we speak of. But can you put this aspect of meaning that you're talking about into a solid example that would make a lot of sense, specifically for me or for people that might be listening? I don't know.
Sure, take your podcast project. At first, you might record to explore ideas, no grand meaning yet. But over time, you notice the conversations help you grow, maybe they help others too. I'm helping people reflect, or I'm evolving, becomes the meaning. Now when you record, it's not just a task. It's tied to that bigger arc, your story of growth and contribution. That's meaning in action.
But why doesn't meaning come before that? Why wouldn't I be like, oh, this, to me, this means a lot because helping people reflect and evolve and gather all these types of clarity within themselves. Why wouldn't that come before the actual action? I understand why it could come after the action, because obviously if you're putting the work out there, eventually you see that it's benefiting others, and clearly that's meaningful. But why wouldn't meaning here come before the action?
Because real meaning is lived, not declared. You can have a nice idea, but your nervous system isn't fully convinced until it feels it. Once you act and you see it resonate, maybe you grow, maybe others respond, that's when the meaning becomes real. So yes, you can have a hopeful intention, but deep meaning sticks after experience proves it out.
So in a way, after you take action and you're having all this consistency of the action, you have the momentum built, it eventually, when the meaning gets attached to the activity, you somehow stabilize it now because it doesn't feel like a waste of time. The meaning basically grabs it and allows the whole aspect of it to be stabilized.
Exactly. Once meaning locks in, the action isn't draining, it's anchored. Now, even when effort is high, you've got that stabilizing reason. It stops feeling like a gamble. Instead, it feels like something worth continuing because now it's part of your purpose.
So, what's the difference between meaning and purpose here?
Think of meaning as the personal connection, the why this matters to you in this moment. Purpose is bigger. It's the overarching long term direction. Purpose is like the compass, meaning is how today's action fits into that. When meaning aligns with purpose, that's when you feel stable, like every step isn't just another task, but part of a bigger journey.
Okay, that makes sense. Is there anything that falls within this picture of what we're talking about that we haven't actually talked about at the moment?
We've covered the core pieces: effort, reward, meaning, and identity. But what we haven't fully touched is how emotions like fear or doubt pop up as signals. Those emotions are just alerts, not roadblocks. So if you feel them, they're just another part of that prediction system. You notice them, adjust, and keep going. That's part of the picture, too.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. But for now, we have effort, reward. You said effort, reward, threat. That's the main system we spoke of before. And then right now we added meaning and identity. With identity, can we go a little bit more over that?
Sure, identity is basically your brain's shortcut for who I am. When you repeatedly act in line with something, let's say being someone who reflects or helps others, your nervous system starts to say, "This is me." When your actions match that internal story, it feels natural. If they don't match, it feels off. So when you calibrate your actions to your evolving sense of self, that's when they stick.
So when the thoughts that we are having about who we are basically aligned with the actions that we have the congruence that we need, right? Where we feel like we are like how we feel inside of us.
Exactly. When your actions line up with how you see yourself, that's where you get that congruence. You feel like you're acting from a place of "this is me" rather than forcing it. That alignment reduces friction, and it just feels right, like your inside and outside are on the same page.
So when we tie this to the effort, reward, threat, and the meaning aspect that we were talking about, what does that mean in all that?
It means that when your actions reflect your identity and meaning, the effort feels more justified, the reward feels bigger, and even the threat feels less scary. Everything just clicks. It's not that effort disappears, but it's effort you're willing to take on because it fits your story. And that's where things really start moving.
So if we have an identity at the moment that we don't necessarily agree with or would like to be, and then we're trying to move to an identity in which we actually get the insights until we actually act upon the insights that we have. How do we go from A to B? How do we go from our identity at the moment where we're not doing the stuff that we want to do to the identity that we actually do the stuff that we want to do? How does that work in there?
You bridge that gap by starting small. You act like the person you want to be in tiny, doable steps. Each time you do, you notice it. I just did something that future me would do. Over time, those small actions add up. Your brain starts seeing, "I guess this is who I am now." Eventually, you're not trying to become that person, you've already started being them.
So it's really just about consistency and making sure that you make the actions that you want to take doable for yourself. So it's very individual because somebody could take a bigger step. Somebody might not be able to take that step that just seems too hard for them because then they would just put it off and not do it. So it is truly just about making actionable steps. It has to be really customized towards the individual that is actually trying to take these steps.
Exactly. It's all about making steps that are doable for you, not someone else's blueprint. If it's too big, you'll stall. If it's small enough, you'll move. And each small move builds momentum. Over time, those consistent steps rewire your sense of identity, and that's how you become the version of yourself you're aiming for.
So right now we're basically talking about the person that doesn't necessarily get themselves to do the things that they want to do. And we're talking about the patterns that makes that person switch from getting the insight and not doing it to changing to having the insight and actually getting themselves to do it. But how does the person that has the insight and actually does the thing work? How does that person internally already have it set up to the point that they have the insight and just already act upon it? Is that a common thing or no?
It's not magic, it's just that they've already trained their prediction system. They've repeated actions enough times that effort, reward, and threat align fast. When they get an insight, their system already predicts, we've done hard things before, the reward comes, and we can handle the risk. So it looks effortless. But it's just experience and calibration, not some special wiring.
Okay, so they already have calibrated their predictions to the point that they don't even if there is a big threat, their ability to withstand that threat is pretty good already. So they don't see it as a big thing, big event. It's just like, oh look, we were fine last time, and they've went over it enough times where they were fine the last time they did something like that, and then boom, they just are like, just do it, it's fine.
Exactly. They've basically built a track record with their brain. The system remembers we handled this before, so the perceived threat shrinks. It's not that they don't feel it at all. It's that their system quickly recalculates, we can manage this. So from the outside, it looks like they just do it, but inside, it's years of building trust with their own process.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So they're basically in their own frame of mind. They're basically like, I got this. I'll be fine. It's okay. Even if I fail, I it's okay to fail. I got it. That too. It's all good.
Exactly. In their mind, the risk is just part of the game. They've learned that even if they stumble, it's not the end of the story. So they act knowing they'll figure it out as they go. It's not about never feeling doubt. It's about trusting they'll handle whatever comes next.
Okay, so this makes a lot of sense here. We're gonna stop here because obviously this is already a lot of information to think about. But you said emotions are the thing that comes after this. So like in day 3, what would day 3 look like after this?
Day 3 would be about how emotions signal you. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, we dig into how fear or doubt can be used as feedback. Day 3 would focus on navigating those feelings, so instead of stopping you, they guide you. That's where we go next.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go over day 3 another day, and thank you.
Sounds like a plan. When you're ready to dive in again, we'll pick right up from there. Until then, let it simmer.